David. I originally came from Britain, grew up in the English countryside. From a young kid had a love of travelling. And in 1969, after graduating at the age of 21, I set off on the overland route to India. I arrived in India just at the time of the Gandhi centenary. So in Delhi, perhaps as a child I knew nothing about Gandhi, but arriving in India with the big exhibitions in Delhi and a lot in the national press, I came to know about Gandhi, his life and his ideals, and was certainly inspired by his concept of what he called basic education. Returning to the UK, I did a 1 year's teacher's training course for graduates, in which I selected or elected to write about Gandhi's basic education. Having completed that course, then I was keen to return to India, not to travel as I had done before, but to somehow, somewhere, work. During that time I came into contact with a small French organization which had a London-based office. Worked with them fundraising for a few months, but in February of 1972 was told by the French office that there would be no possibility of me working with them, as I didn't have any practical skills. Continued to work in the London office when a letter arrived from Lakshmi Ashram asking if that organization could send them 2 or 3 volunteers. So I replied saying that volunteers couldn't come, as it were, officially from that organization, but that I was interested in coming individually, independently, as a volunteer here. And that was a long contact, because that French organization had volunteers in the early 70s working in Bodh Gaya with a Gandhian ashram, and there were workers from Lakshmi Ashram at that time working in Bodh Gaya. So it was through those contacts that somebody in Lakshmi Ashram came to know of this small French organization and wrote a letter to the London office. And my memory is such that in that letter it made no mention of this being a Gandhian ashram and no mention of it being an educational institution. But a door was open for me, and when a reply came from Radhaben saying that you would be most welcome in Lakshmi Ashram, then I packed my rucksack and once again took the overland route and arrived in India. The first time, so in the 1970s, I stayed the first time for 1 year in 72, 73. Went back to earn some money and get some experience in organic market gardening. Came back in 75. And then felt that with my education I should have a, quote, proper employment. So went back to the UK, worked in London for 5.5 years in a government office, but my heart was in Lakshmi Ashram. Twice I saved up my annual leave and came out to Lakshmi Ashram on holiday, and during the holiday was busy working here, and it was decided that by Lakshmi Ashram that they would be most welcome to have me back. And so I continued to work in London for a couple of more years and returned to Lakshmi Ashram in 1981. And since then I've been working full-time in Lakshmi Ashram. To begin with, when I had less command of Hindi, then I was more occupied in outside work, in the garden, other physical activities, and also in the office with regard to English language correspondence, especially with the contacts with our Danish support group. But as the time went by, so I found myself doing more teaching, and after that also, for better or worse, getting involved in the accounting, so that now I find most of my time and energy is devoted to the office, to correspondence, to maintaining accounts, to report writing, and such like.
Okay. What is the kind of education that is being imparted to the kids here?
In modern terminology, then, we might use the word holistic, that the education sets out to develop, as they often say, the hand, the head and the heart. That it's not simply academically orientated education, but it gives equal value to physical work. It seeks to relate the daily life of the ashram to the life that would be lived in the surrounding villages where the girls come from. And at the same time, then a lot of emphasis is also put on developing their more artistic abilities. Emphasis put on drama, on dance, on song. One of the highlights of the year, it's become quite a tradition in the Goswami areas, on the occasion of Sri Krishna Janmashtami, that the ashram students present a Krishna Leela on a meadow down below the ashram. A stage is put up, and it's such that we never have to publicize it, that it's become so much part of the local calendar that without advertising, everybody for miles around knows that on the first day of Sri Krishna Janmashtami, when people observe a fast, that in the middle of the day the ashram students will put on their Krishna Leela.